speaker today. Please welcome with me Jim Brayshaw. Jim is a former firefighter, fire captain, and a leader in mental health education and support. His work has evolved partnering with local, regional, and global organizations to develop and deliver mental health strategies and programs that foster wellness and a culture of psychological health and safety. His inspired conversations move audiences to pursue improved relationships, work-life balance, emotional flexibility, and kindness for humanity. With me, please welcome Jim. Over to yourself, Jim.
Appreciate that so much, Trevor, and thank you for getting me here. And Amanda, thank you for all your work in getting me here as well today. And I just want to make note too that we're on Treaty 6 territory right here in Saskatchewan, where I'm coming from today virtually. And my team member with me is Cassidy. He's going to be moderating. So guarantee this team for some, I want to be a certainty broker today for you and with you. And we'll talk about what that means. But Cass, isn't it the case that if there's a glitch in my audio or camera, you're going to jump in and pause me? Is that certain?
Yeah, we obviously always hope that everything runs smoothly, and should today. But yeah, we'll jump in and pause if we have any hiccups there.
That's fantastic. And if you can't see or hear anything, you can message Cassidy. But talking about seeing and hearing as well, I don't get to see all your faces the way sometimes we are privileged to do so when we're in live audiences. So right now, I want to just make sure you're going to pitch in along the way to be a certainty broker to help me see, yeah, you're with us. Don't have to be agreeing with me or us, but just with us in this. So right now, if you could just put any emoji on reaction, hover over your react button on top of the screen, if you're all fairly familiar with Teams, and go ahead and pop something in there, because I'm going to ask some questions along the way, and we'll just look for a few quick responses, thumbs up or surprisey face if things are going great for you. And we see people are raising hands as well. That's okay to do so. If you're raising your hand, look to the right of that, and there's a reaction happy face. You can use reactions as well. And I'm not here to give an entire tutorial on Teams, but I just want to make sure that piece of certainty is right on track. Now, talking about being a certainty broker, my work in the fire service, I learned a few steps to manage uncertainty along the journey. And that was exceptionally helpful near the end of my career, stuff I wished I would have learned early on in my career. I'll mention a few things on that. We'll be wrapping up this at the top of the hour, so there's little time for questions because we scheduled this for till 1:15, till quarter past the hour today. And by way of introduction, some key points today that we're going to go through, team, is we want to talk about the sources and forces of uncertainty, the 13 psychosocial factors, and how that is helpful for our certainty in our workplaces. And there's a mysterious power of intention and communication. When we load our communication up with automated behaviors, we're less intentional. But once we're intentional, there's a mysterious power that happens with the language that starts to come to the front of our brain. We'll talk about the impact of low trust on uncertainty. And we want to leave today having a few things in our basket to help soften that force of uncertainty. And it may be the case for you, it may not be the case for you that uncertainty doesn't impact you in many ways. And for most of us, in fact, let's hover over a reaction. Thumbs up if this is true of you. I am getting tired of uncertainty in the day-to-day journey that we are on as a culture. Anybody can agree to that with a thumbs up. And look down and I see there's and even hands up, and it's true. And there's sadly no ceasing of the uncertainty that is in front of us and we're in presently in so many ways. And as you see here, I might talk with my hands a bit. I was uncertain how to use an electric hedge clipper in a safe way on Saturday morning. Ended up at 8:30 at the minor emergency clinic getting stitches because I nipped my finger. So apology for the hideous bandage, but you'll see it from time to time in our journey together today. Now, my workplace could have been more psychologically safe if I was more thoughtful that morning, because I do a lot of work from home. I wasn't physically safe, and all of those things add up together in every workplace. And this is where we find statistics such as you're seeing on screen. About 70% of employees are uncertain about workplace psychological health. Now, psychological health, we'll talk about it in a bit. There's a particular module on it that we're going to go through today. It actually impacts emotional health, mental health, relational health in so many ways. Psychological health is not mental health specifically, but when we have a healthy workplace, we know we're all more mentally healthy. Another study talked about 70% of employees feeling uncertain about job stability due to shifting economic conditions. Let's ask you, as I talk about this, to go to the reaction and a surprisey face. If you know someone who is concerned about job stability, hit the surprisey face reaction, because it's such the case for so many of us in our lives, and the friends, the family, the children, the partners, and even ourselves. We feel the pinch of what's going on regionally, nationally, globally. And it gives that wobble, that sense of, oh, I'm not sure what's going to happen next. And it is uncertainty in so many ways. We also have a very clear understanding that uncertainty leads to disengagements. When we are continually met with uncertainties, we have lower resilience and wellness issues develop in many, many ways. And it would be a beautiful thing if you could just with me now, and you can leave your eyes open if you prefer, but I'm going to ask you in a second to just pause your breath and close your eyes for a few seconds here. So today we all woke up so we could enjoy the day and spend some time together. But here, just pause your breath and just close your eyes for a second so you can just imagine that last night, when you went to bed you washed off the world and the day, you slept great. And this morning, when you woke a little bit before the alarm clock, because you slept so good, you had no uncertainty at all about your day, your work, your family, your health, your finances, and zero uncertainty. Is it possible you could put a reaction now into our conversation? Like, how many of you would just love that feeling? The appropriate reaction would be the heart. And I sadly haven't met anyone who is in that place. Some of us soften the force of uncertainty a little easier than others. However, it's not possible for us to wake up with certainty and no uncertainty. That being our case, is there a path? Is there a path we can find a way to that's going to cause a little more sense of safety? And the path is through intention. Intention has an amazing power. When we can set this path for improved wellness potential by attending uncertainty, things start to find their way into our thoughts and our feelings and our behaviors. And then when we're intentionally creating a culture of psychological safety in our workplaces, we find people's path starts to define itself in a way that says, okay, this intention is actually benefiting me both in my personal life and in my work life. So the path to this certainty, to soften our force of uncertainty, is actually through our intention. There's not very many people I've met in the last year that haven't identified the complexity of uncertainty. It is absolutely from all directions in many cases and days. Now, as we talk about the effects of it and the force of it, know this, I want, as a certainty broker, someone who wants to bring little pieces of certainty into our conversation, we're going to talk about the strategies to make it easier. And this is an all age, all hazards, all thoughts, but mainly uncertainty strategy, because it's coming from all directions, and the pace and it's just varied, and the effects on bombarding me or you as an individual are varied. And our workplaces are often incubators of uncertainty because there's such a dynamic, large machine with so many cogs and wheels and processes and procedures that uncertainty can be incubated in our workplaces. So that will leave us feeling this force in many cases. Now, if you are not a believer that the force of uncertainty has a real feeling, let's just imagine this. I'm going to ask you this. How many of y'all like to go on a long, long road trip? Raise a hand or put up a reaction, thumbs up. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much. Yeah, so there's many of us that like a road trip. And I forget what the version of the chat is, but if you are going to stop and fuel up for road trip, what's your favorite road trip snack? Like, what do you just got to have besides coffee or whatever that beverage is? But go ahead, pop into the chat room so folks can see what your absolute favorite road trip snack is, which is a really nice, it's like a treat checkpoint to soften the uncertainties of what's to come ahead in our road trip. So keep popping that in there while I talk about this force of uncertainty. Here's an example of how this force of uncertainty can work in our lives. We've decided the long road trip's going to happen. We're going to visit a friend or a family member who's way off in a distant part of even your province or a neighboring province. You've never been there before. And you decide, okay, I'm going to just Google map it out so I know where I'm going. Excellent. You got your Google map. You've picked where you're going, when you know when the turns are going to take place. Okay, we'll be turning there, and then I'm looking for this next highway or road, and Google Maps will tell us. I'm a truster of Google Maps. Like I absolutely, even if I'm going 100 kilometers away to a city I've been to before, somehow I just like to put it on so I can see the exact time I'm supposed to arrive. It's really helpful for me. It gives me that next layer of certainty. And so you know where you're going. And then you get your motor running, and in your head or out loud to a blanked out mic, finish this. You get your motor running and you head out on the highway. You automatically finish that lyric because it's implanted in the automated segments of your neurobiology and physiology. So you got your road tunes cranked up and you're just rolling along, your favorite snack, and you go zipping right by your turn. Now, remember, this is a new environment. You've not been in this direction before. And all of a sudden, as you go zipping by, you feel some type of way. And now the signs don't kind of make sense. Oh, that's not what I expected. Your brain is trying to predict what's going to happen next. What's going to happen next? And so many of us will automatically reach down and turn the volume down on our road tune playlist, or however you use volume on your steering wheel. And the reason why is because in this high prediction mode, that little bit of uncertainty, although it not life-threatening, it doesn't feel good. There's a very clear force to it. And even compounded when we see, oh, now my fuel gauge is lower than I thought. I should be thinking of getting fuel. And to turn the volume down on the road trip playlist, it's recruiting bandwidth back so you can start to cognitively perform. And this is a very real force. How many of you, go ahead with a thumbs up in the reaction, please, you actually have kind of felt that sense of unease that comes with, I've taken the wrong direction and I'm on a road trip. And we actually feel it. And so there's many of us who don't have that feeling. Many of us do. But a small example, thank you for your reactions, team. A small example of how that uncertainty just hits us, sometimes a little more than others. So the force is real. If you or I have historical exposure to this, in fact, I'll back up and I will mention my historical exposure is thanks to, I believe, Art. Hello, Art. I know you're were supposed to join us today. When I was in Edmonton to do some work with Art and his team with the Mine Safety Association, I was driving there on Google Maps. I had to get to the hotel that it was telling me to. It took me a totally different direction I'd ever been to Edmonton. And it actually, I think my road tunes were too loud, team. And I went zipping through an intersection safely when it was safe. And I'm now on a grid road somewhere. And I'm about 3/4 of a kilometer up the road. And I'm starting to feel uneasy. I'm feeling some type of way. And I tell you for a fact, because I'm learning how to manage these small uncertainties so I can then build the neural pathways to handle big uncertainties, I stopped the car, pulled over by some swamp, and I looked at my phone on the phone holder, and I said, "No way, Google, this doesn't feel right." Like if you talk to Google about maps, then you're in more control than you think. And I had to identify this doesn't feel good. And so what do I do next? Well, next I needed to understand what I'm feeling. Like, and perhaps this is you when uncertainty starts to come in for something as simple as this, or like the vision may narrow. Some of us, our heart rate increases. Some of us, the respiratory rate. Some of us, we have some fuzzy confusion, some bit of cognitive deficit because our prefrontal cortex is now being occluded from making great decisions. So starting by facing that uncertainty, I felt what it felt like. And I actually expressed it to Google. No, this feels wrong. I don't feel good about this. And we're going to talk about what happens next, because in my fire service career team, the historical exposures I had left me in a place where I would jump over that middle step of feeling what I feel like when uncertainty hits and identifying it. And this if you have historical, sorry, I'll back up one poke here. If you have historical exposure to uncertainty, you will have built some capacity to navigate it. But truly, for so many of us, the uncertainties that continually cascade in front of us day after day, we often don't have historical experience with them. So we have to find a strategy so we can manage the difficulties that come from that. And the difficulties are proliferating everywhere. There's a lot of folks that you and I know that may be feeling unsafe. In fact, perhaps over 2/3, I guess almost 3/4 of people in a work-related environment experience stress in the past month. Well, that's typical. But look at where we're at today with people who feel unsafe. 34% feel less safe now than we did 5 years ago. And over half anticipate there's a degree of instability and global catastrophes that is significantly contributing to that sense of unsafety. And it is immensely real for us who are in the workplace and also have lives outside the workplace, which means every one of us. 43% of folks were uncertain about the impact if they told their employer about a mental health condition. We want to be able to have that certainty and safety. If I'm in distress or having declining wellness, my performance is shifting, is my employer and my environment and the organizational culture safe enough that I can share with Cassidy, like, I just feel like I've been so anxious lately. My boss, Cass, will treat me in a certain way as a certainty broker. Oh, Jim, we're gonna step through this together. However it goes for you. 1 in 7 people, as well as another statistic pops in front of us, 1 in 7 of us are uncertain about our psychological safety at work. And I don't want any one of you, I don't want to be that one person out of 7. Maybe doesn't seem like a really large number, but I don't want to be that person. I wouldn't like the people I care about or work with to be that person. But speaking of person, okay, in your reaction, just so I know who we got here. So put an applause hands up if you can. How many of you were born human babies? Applause hands that if that's the case for you. Just so you were given a certificate at birth. That's your first certificate. As geoscientists and engineers, maybe that should belong on our wall. I didn't put my birth certificate on my wall back here today. But I think I'm going to start because that's the best certificate that gives us the most privileges, rights, and credentials for what we need to do to help each other stay well. And in fact, if you were, in fact, one time a baby, the reality is you will have, as we all do, what's known as a human control preference. We prefer to have some control over some things some of the time, and some of us prefer to have control over all the things all of the time. If that's you, put a surprisey face up, or if you know someone you work with or family, if you know someone who wants total control all the time, that's hard to step around sometimes. But most of us in this journey, we actually prefer and we need some control of certain things along the way. Even as a human baby, it was developed in us sometimes in utero, but oftentimes in the first months of being a human baby outside a mom's womb. And if that is disrupted from uncertainty, that force actually releases a threat response. Hormones are released from stress. There's immune system suppression, and many of us start to behave a little bit atypically out of our pattern, which are often known as maladaptive behaviors. And we actually have lower pain tolerance when we're having this human control preference from even uncertainty, putting us on a wobble. And one will experience this. And folks, as I go through this, the reason why it's important to know what's happening, because if we want to get to the how, we have to know why this is going on for humans, because it reduces that sense of shame or guilt or, I shouldn't be feeling like this. No, we're feeling how we're feeling. But the issue is, can we identify it and understand why? So then we can figure out the how. So we will have more negative perceptions in many cases. We also will have a narrowing of attention as well. Irritability starts to increase. Imagine that road trip and you're with your most beloved partner, if you happen to have one, or somebody who's your closest significant other, and you go zipping by. Now someone's in the seat beside you, and they say, "Oh, that's your turnoff. Come on, we got to get back there." And what's the most of us will do? I know, and we actually have that irritable face because we are also feeling the sense of that pressure and weight. So irritability increases. We have greater fear when we have this human control preference set on wobble, so to speak. And as humans do, this is natural. This is why we've been given this beautiful power that animals have. It's called metacognition, where I can think about my thoughts and my emotions, meta-emotion and metacognition. And then I might be able to resist it. But generally speaking, when our human control preference is nudged or set on wobble, we have a greater effort or sense of urgency placed on regaining control. So that feels natural when we see it. Yeah, that makes sense because it's an uneasiness. And that uneasiness is different for all of us. And this is one of the beautiful things about culture today. We're starting to see more supportive conversations where if I'm really uneasy about missing the turn and someone has no problem because of their historical exposure to this kind of a journey, then that person who's not having an intolerance of uncertainty can support me in a meaningful way because we have a different tolerance of uncertainty. And answer this question with a thumbs up or a surprisey face. Have you seen the intolerance of uncertainty screening before? If it's a yes, put a thumbs up. If it's a no, put a surprisey face. And I'm not sure if we sent Trevor and Amanda this handout. We certainly send it to you and get you it. And here's one thing about screenings, why they often don't go, thank you. So a few of us have seen it. If not, surprisey face. Thank you. A few of us who have used a screening, we've learned they're not for diagnosing what's going wrong with me or what's happening to me. These things, and I'll just pop it out of the way for a second, screenings are more of a reflective thought experiment. Let's put it in those terms. It's an RTE. Those terms say that I'm going to reflect on my answers. And I'm not going through all the answers right now, but I want to just enlarge this so we can see how this looks. So looking at the opportunity, unforeseen events upset me greatly. Well, I might say that's a little characteristic of me. I might pop a 2 in there. Look at question 2. It frustrates me not having all the information I need. I really feel better when I have information. So that's a 3 for me, a somewhat characteristic of me. And as I said, I'm not going through all. So let's pop down to number 6 and just so we get a picture of what that looks like. When it's time to act, uncertainty paralyzes me. Well, as I said, in my fire service career, I stepped into uncertainty and then I acted because that was the way the training happened. And I chose one of the options for acting. So keep that in mind as we talk about the F3 shortly. So on that one, when it's time to act, uncertainty paralyzes me. No, it doesn't happen. Now let's look at 9. I can't stand being taken by surprise. Maybe it's a very much characteristic of you. And that last one, if we look at that, number 12, it says, I must get away from all uncertain situations. So that screening, or right, it's a reflective thought experiment where we reflect on these things. How am I at that? Did I used to have more capacity to tolerate uncertainty, and now uncertainty is just mounting and accumulating, and it's harder to tolerate uncertainty? And folks, please consider if you feel like, and the screening such as this indicates to you that you might have a lower tolerance of uncertainty, understandably, that is the perfect assessment of self to say, wow, this version of normal human is not very comfortable. And it starts with just that. I appreciate that none of us want to look as if we can't handle uncertainty, most of us, but the reality is there's many things at play. When there's uncertainty in this part of life and there's on psychological safety is low in this part of life at the workplace, we see it really impacts people on, I was going to say unconsciously, but non-consciously, meaning we're not thinking about the impact. People become more risk averse and unmotivated, and there's stagnation at individual and organizational levels as well. And the decision making is impacted, and it affects the psychological, the relational, and professional and physical aspects of many of our human journey now as human adults. And if as many engineers and geoscientists are in your field, as well as administrative team members and staff, you're actually high performers. So there's a whole different relationship. This is my note to high performers. When I'm feeling uncertain about whatever, going the wrong way because Google decided that we're driving you out to Grid Road, Jim, to end you. This is where we're going to take you out. It almost feels like that scary, like Under the Murder Bridge in the deep, dark Breaking Bad era of movies and series. So feeling some type of way often is met by high performers and people who have a strength to not feel that type of way as saying, hey, no, it's not a big deal. Why are you worried about it? Don't even, just forget about it. It doesn't bother me. Well, folks, if this is you, that you have this great capacity to sustain yourself when uncertainty and distress is occurring, and you're very resilient in your work, can you please consider that the rest of us may not be quite as inclined, and just understand this is different for me than it was for you. Because high performers, a note or two on those high performers, they have a actual neurological variance that's been identified now, and they are those people that consistently achieve exceptional results and they excel in their field. They demonstrate a combination of talent, skill, and strong work ethic, and they can maintain it. And interestingly, they maintain this high level of achievement over time. And their recovery and resilience strategies are tailored and truncated. When we work with high performers in many ways, for instance, put a thumbs up or a reaction if you have been told don't use your phone in bedtime or in the middle of the night. Put a thumbs up if you've been told that. Over the reaction bar. So this is a classic dealing with uncertainty and resilience and getting better sleep. It's a classic and traditional version of this is how to stay well. Now, there may be some high performers in here. How many of you, and I want to see a happy face on this one, if you'll answer this question, you get the middle of the night missed email terror. It's like a night terror, and you just wake up, oh my God, I forgot to reply to that email this morning or this afternoon or before the end of the day. And it was a deadline. I needed to get this to so-and-so. How many of you would potentially take your phone from the side of your bed, fill out the email, because once it's out of your head, you're going to be able to get back to sleep versus when it's in your head, you can't. How many of you have ever done that? Gotten back to sleep after responding to the email night terrors that have hit some of us. And this is a high performer move. It's better for that person to do that. Whereas the prescribed version of resilience says never use your phone in bed or you'll ruin sleep forever and you'll never sleep again and you'll revert to an old person who's 120 years biological age, like overnight. No, it's not the case. When we get that privilege to choose our resilient strategies as high performers and managing uncertainty, we don't actually land on the traditional resilience strategies that we're familiar with. We have different versions of them, and many of you are here. And because when we improve humans, we improve everything. And that means now is the time when many of us, some of you are already doing it, are nuancing your versions of resilience and nuancing your understanding and your choices in choosing emotional and mental health. such as now using mental rehearsal. I will rehearse mentally how things are going to look when I log on to an unknown meeting that I happen to be leading. And there's a list there that, again, it's not prescriptive, but it's a sample list: error assessment and growth mindset. It's a sample list for high performers, picture snapshot of their nuanced strategies. Emotional regulation seems a little more concise. Fitness and nutrition it's an absolute in most days, and there's proactive coping and continuous learning and development, and the high performer can rely on themselves to get them through in a more self-understood sense than many of us, where I need support to get through. And this is in our workplace, but uncertainty is not just at work. Uncertainty is everywhere. And here I'll ask you again, folks, who remembers a time a couple of years ago where you could kind of know what the world's going to look like in a year from now? There was the mortgages are going to go like this, stock markets are going to. Do you remember that time where there was a bit of, I'm a kind of understand and I'm a little certain what the world could look like? But now, how many of us know that tomorrow when we wake up, I can't even predict what the world's going to look like? Our future is harder to see, and our brain is always predicting. And the fact is that we're not alone on this. Doesn't seem to kind of sit in us and give us that peace. And what I mean by we're not alone is that everyone we know everywhere is going through various versions of uncertainty. Now, we don't have capacity for hearing everybody's, which ones you're experiencing, but I could simply ask the question, how many of us are experiencing several work or job career uncertainties? And if that's you, just nod yourself, yes, I am. Please identify you are to start with. What about relationship uncertainties, like the impact of tech on relationship, the shifting social norms? This is uncertainties that are with us, or health and personal. The aging population and chronic disease, the change in healthcare mechanisms, methods, and medications. The last category, institutionally, very, very few of us are not impacted by some of these question marks that are causing the wobble. And this wobble leads us to, again, another kind of physiological response. My body is going to respond a type of way to a threat where there's stress hormones, the chronic inflammation may occur, my resilience could go down, and my psychological stress could go up as well. And this is not rare. And this force of uncertainty in life can be significant, and it can actually affect the mitochondria. If you remember this, see if your brain fills in the blank. The mitochondria are the powerhouse cells of the body, correct? Most of you would have gotten that from grade 10 biology. But what happens when there's chronic and ongoing stress and inflammation is the DNA are altered in our mitochondria. And when those DNA are altered, the mitochondria stop producing energy as efficiently. They don't take and convert ATP into energy as well, and nor do they distribute energy as efficiently. And it would be a marvelous thing if we could move that backwards. Let's pull the chains back or walk it back, however you want, because being an uncertainty broker when being faced with unceasing uncertainty is essential for self and for us to support others who also deserve certainty from us. So we're going to use a mechanism called the F3 to soften the force of uncertainty. Perhaps you've heard of it. It's fairly a recent understanding, and it's simply face it, feel it, move forward. And what does that look like in real time for us? Let me just hold this here for you. As I mentioned, face it. Remember the road trip we went on and Google Maps took us the wrong direction? Well, we faced it. We said, okay, this doesn't feel good. I feel uncomfortable here. So I felt uncertainty, as many of you would, and we face it. All that means is we're labeling, I am uncertain about this. Then we feel it. Folks, this is the step that many of us are taught to jump over. In my fire service career, in my little bit of sports, a little bit of high school, Brayshaw, face it. Like, I know you don't like what's going on in this call, but we have to go to, and we're not certain what's on the inside of this burning structure. Face it, jump over the next thing, and then take an option and start doing some work. face it and move forward. When we miss a point, our body misses out on a chance to learn to process it. That's why it's essential that we face it and then we feel it. So feel it. You're going to love this. Because when we were taught what feel it meant, it doesn't mean interpret it. It means feel it. Okay, I'm uncertain about where Google's taken me. This feels awful. I felt my vision narrow. I identified. It's called sense foraging. So sense foraging is simply try to identify how is my body feeling in some way. Okay, did my stomach tighten? Did my neck tighten? Did I feel my breathing change or my heart change? Or did my vision narrow, as happens to me when I get confused from uncertainty like that? It's that my vision narrows and it's harder for me to have cognitive capacity. So face it, feel it, and don't interpret it. Don't say, oh, this is why I feel like this. Because I'm such a horrible navigator, and start to interpret all the things with it. Do not interpret, feel it. And now we move into options. So we label, we sense forage and feeling it, and now we move into options. We decide to step forward. How are we going to step forward is the question. And stepping forward means simply this: we take an action. On that road trip, that fated road trip where I think Google was still trying to take me out of this life, I decided, okay, I'm getting out of the car. And I don't know if you've ever done car hood push-ups, but I went and said, what can I do? I walked around the car, and it was a very unfamiliar environment. I did push-ups on the front of the car, 15 of them, and I was able to process a bit better. Got back in the car, got my head back on track so I could get my journey through uncertainty back on track as well. So facing it, feeling it, stepping forward. That's the F3. Its job is to reduce the threat response in our brain and giving us emotional clarity, which we all deserve. A clearer mindset, promoting patience and better understanding and decision making, and improving stress management. And our focus will increase, leading to improved emotional and mental well-being. F3 is very simple. And what it is, folks, is similar to what I learned from Angela, my wife and partner, who at one point had a serious eye condition because of her autoimmune underlying conditions. And she went to the specialist, and the doctor prescribed these eye drops. And when Angela came home, I said, oh, what'd the doc tell you? The doctor said that these eye drops are what I need. So I picked up the prescription. Oh, what do they do for your eyes? Well, interesting. The doctor said, well, they're not there to heal your eyes, but what they will do by keeping your eyes moist and lubricated enough, they will put your eyes into the environment of healing. And that, my friends, is what we all need, is to have enough certainty to move into the environment of healing. If we can face it, feel it, and move it forward, we can see the emotions we might experience when faced with the discomfort of uncertainty. And we step into a healthy version of the next time we are faced with uncertainty. And this is step one. To being a certainty broker, we face it, we feel it, and we move forward. The next few steps I'm going to tell you about are quite clearly a shorter journey than our first conversation that led us to step one: face it, feel it, step forward. But most people we've encountered can do that. Most people I've encountered also are learning that psychological safety combats uncertainty in our workplaces, because our workplaces, raise your hand or put a happy face if you would dig this kind of workplace where collaboration is the norm, there's a safe sharing of ideas, innovation just keeps going because it's sustainable, we feel respected. Yeah, I never met anyone who said, Jim, I want to go to a workplace where I just feel a little less respect. No, we all deserve and want respect and civility, and we can be honest about how we feel. And your central nervous system actually regulates, doesn't have that spike of threat without comfort and certainty. Also, there's clear communication, and trust is not in question. It's a real experience for many of us. Like 27% of us who have a low psychological health and safety in our workplace are more likely to leave our job in a year. We also know that 40% admit to withholding ideas that could improve work processes because of low psychological health and safety. Also true, 58% report low trust in leadership. Half say team dynamics and communication report, and 2/3 of us will be reluctant to report mistakes. It's essential. As engineers and geoscientists, we have psychological safety. There are certainty brokers in our midst, including you, so that we can report mistakes without fear of retribution or repercussion. So here's what I want you to notice. There's no big task for you here. And this is a massive conversation that we're going to distill down to a couple minutes to let you know a little bit about the psychological health and safety in the workplace. So just to take me out of the picture for a bit, if you'll see here, there's 3 categories. There's the leadership category, the employee engagement and well-being category, and the safety and support category. And in those categories for psychological health and safety, these come from a 2013 standard that the standard actually was given us by the Mental Health Commission of Canada and a number of stakeholders. And that standard says, you know what, when we have such things as, for instance, clear leadership and expectations, I'll just point to 3 psychological, psychosocial factors. So clear leadership and expectations, establishing clear leadership and expectations, and setting expectations to guide teams. If we were to have involvement and influence, every one of us deserves involvement and influence, and that encourages employee involvement and influence in decision-making processes that enhances the commitment and fosters a sense of ownership. And this moves people from just relying on resources, which is an external characteristic, to being resourceful, where they can make resourceful choices for wellness, for self, and for improvement in the workplace. The third one we'll look at here is just psychological and social support. So people are realizing we need this in our workplaces. We need a place where my workplace facilitates emotional well-being and strengthens me as a person emotionally, and strengthens, therefore, the social fabric of the organization. If I were to get you all in a room, I could ask how many of you would feel your workplace is improved, even if we had a few of those things in our workplace. And most of us would say, you know what? Yeah, I would feel better. I would then be able to embrace not just autonomy, but also move to agency to soften the force. What that means is this. If you said, yeah, I would like clear leadership and expectations. Yeah, I would like some involvement and influence in how my work processes go. Yeah, I would like to have psychological and social support. So that's a want. That's our autonomy. We have a desire for something. So our next step is say, I'm going to move from autonomy to agency, meaning I can now be part of getting the reality that I want in this work world and my personal world that I want. Moving from autonomy to agency is quite as simple as this. If anybody throw up a happy face, if you say, yeah, I'd like to have ice cream for supper, put a happy face in the reaction. Who would love, maybe it's hot. It's getting hotter out here in Saskatoon. Yeah, I would love ice cream for supper. So that's my autonomy. Guess what? I own ice cream. It's in my freezer. I can go get it and eat it. I know where the spoons are. I'm doing it. That's my agency. I'm actually moving in a thoughtful sense in a direction that's going to have an outcome that I would like. So this is step 2, moving from autonomy to agency. Step 1, using the F3, feel it. So face it, feel it, move forward. Used in step 2, moving from autonomy to agency. So a couple more steps before we wrap up here at the top of our hour. The step of being intentional. This one is such a beautiful opportunity for us to use agency when we can have conscious intention aligned with the values and goals and use intentional language in certain responses. There is very few greater certainty brokers than those one is certain about, Jim's not going to say something offensive or rude to me when we're in the meeting or when we're hanging around with buddies, because Jim's a certainty broker and he knows that that language has a specific way, and improving our work environment as a supportive individual and our life combats uncertainty. It requires empathy, active engagement, listening actively, offering help, helping behaviors build trust, providing reassurance and fostering connections. If you've ever been told, hey, go figure it out when you have a problem that needs solving, that is an instant trust reducer. It's not a helping behavior. And of course, thoughtful language and communication is essential. So can we do it? Can we employ the chemistry of communication? I think as an agency, an organization that works in the realm of engineering and geoscience, you understand a bit more of chemistry probably than most of us that come from the fire service. And the fact is, if we were to restate this phrase, sticks and stones can break my bones, but words will never hurt me, it can be changed to say sticks and stones can break my bones and words can make me ill in some way. And the reality is words. Let's look at the chemistry of a word, what it does. Imagine someone said a word, here I'll say a word right away, and it's going to cause some type of a feeling for some of you, if not all of you. And that feeling or emotion is going to bring a thought. So just pause your breath and close your eyes, and then you can type it in the chat room if a feeling comes to you instantly when I say this word. Okay, pausing, eyes closed. The word is Christmas time. Okay, that's 2 words, but that's still the same point being made. You can open your eyes if they're closed. All right, so that word brought a thought, and thank you, people, for popping into the chat. There's something that felt, because there was a hormone, there was some chemistry that occurred. All right, so let's do that drill again. One more time with a different word. Tell me if something pops into your thought or you're feeling warmth. Thank you, Peter. I'm seeing that on screen as well. Happy, Sarah. Appreciate that on screen too. All right, so how about this word? Let's do this one again. Yeah, happy as well. Thank you, Abby. Norman, food. Oh, yeah. And you know what? That you mentioned Norman, food, like right away, that word causes another hormone, which makes me hungry, right? It's ghrelin starts to produce, and it's the hormone for hunger. But let's go for another word. Okay, ready? Okay, pause your breath and just close your eyes and tell me if anything pops into your thought. The word is colonoscopy. A little bit more of a pause. Fear. Suhas Shah, thank you so much. Disgust, old. Oh, yeah, good. That aging thing. Yeah, this is more occurring. Well, look at how quick. Keep popping them in there, team. Look at how quick these words came because you heard a word. You didn't ask for the thought. It caused an emotion and a hormone. And some of us, like this word, it causes a stress hormone. Not that we're all going to be sick with colonoscopy needs because of the word, but ultimately, when we have this collection of words that may be mishandled in a non-supportive way, not the words I use, but general language, how are we using our words to make sure we're bringing better chemistry to self and others? Because the low end of chemistry can lead to inflammation, and inflammation is the largest driver of disease. So if we want to be honest with self, we can pause and choose a little bit better words. And in fact, can we step away from the program in our head so that we have a better chance at supporting someone? Like, for instance, this program is like this for some of us, and maybe you know someone, right, walking along, we see a dog like this being walked by an owner who looks a little like the dog, go figure, and you kind of glance over and it's in your head, and you look over and say, wow, that's an ugly dog. Can you imagine those words causing positive chemistry when we could have paused and been a little more thoughtful about what that individual may be going through, or just putting their emotions just a little bit in preference to ahead of ours for a moment? Here's this other one. So you encounter this coworker who's just got a massive pile. You walk into their office space and you say something like this. So how else could we say it? Whoa, what a pile you have to climb. What's wrong with you these days? So our words are impacting people and they're causing chemistry to occur. And if we can commit to be intentional in a psychologically safer world and environment, we can choose to intentionally communicate like a chemist is step 3. So step 1, the F3. Okay, face it, feel it, then move forward. Step 2, move from autonomy to agency, putting actual action and effort into what we want in a psychologically safe world and environment. And step 3, the power of the pause. Okay, just a little timeout when I'm about to say, wow, is that ever some ugly dog? All I needed was a little pause for another word out of the 20 to 40,000 words in my head to come to mind. So that's step 3. Well, how about we look at our last step together before we wrap up our time? We'll take just 5 minutes to just recognize how low trust and uncertainty are actually two sides of the same coin. We need to rebuild trust. And when the force of uncertainty is part of disassembling trust from person to person, parent to child, child to parent, teacher to student, student to teacher, employee to employer. So trust is an essential element for the human well-being. In fact, if we look at historically, the roots of trust, we needed to have trust in kind of tribal groups that lived all over the pockets of our globe. We needed it to have trust because our culture needed cooperation and collaboration to survive. Trust is a survival need for us. When it's diminished, it causes distress in the human expression in our brain. We needed trust as a species that's evolved because of resource sharing and child rearing. It was clear there was way more collaborative child rearing in a certain periods of ancient history. And we had more safety. When there was trust, we had more safety in our environment. And so when we don't have trust, we know that the certainty brokers that are building trust these days, what they're doing is they're giving us that sense of central nervous system moving into the comfort zone where we're apologies, I'm going back to that, where we're reducing our stress and enhancing resilience and fostering that sense of security, promoting emotional and mental health. Overall better outcomes and quality of life, and yay, quality of sleep improves. If you are not a high quality sleeper, you deserve that environment of healing, and uncertainty has been impacting it. And our sleep, our trust, our hope, all of it has been affected by the times of crisis we've gone through. These times of crisis, they are also affecting the mitochondria that follow the fallout from them. But this is expressed as discomfort in the brain. Anytime there's crisis individually or particularly globally, high stress and uncertain environments can hinder our neural process, and our peace and trust-based relationships. Leads to so many things few of us desire, in fact, and sadly, we can't even manage things like skepticism until we start to take claim of where we are with the uncertainty. And for me, uncertainty started with mistrust during the pandemic when I was, you couldn't get a haircut because you couldn't go to the salon for a few weeks. And my beautiful partner, Angela, said, I'll cut your hair, Jim. And to this day, the guys at work said, Jim, did you get a haircut by the monastery stylist? And they snapped a picture of the back of my head. And I thought, well, I don't know if I still don't tell Ange, but I still don't trust her to cut my hair the way I want it. And I'm not a hair model, don't get me wrong. But the reality is trust has a really unique capacity to get diminished a little bit, and we paint the entire picture with it. But it isn't just you and me. It's every continent and country and city and town and workplace where we've seen this decrease in oxytocin and serotonin, and then empathy goes down, and people have less desire to connect because trust has slipped away. So I want to bring you to this. The reason why we want to improve this is because we have to start finding things to trust. Let me just put this out of view for a second as I say, folks, if we use strength-based trust, starting to look for little things we trust, like one group we worked with, we were talking about the employer and the employee trust relationship, and a group of team members around the table at the session were asked, okay, to finish this sentence, what do you trust but we wanted to know what they trust about their boss. So we put the sentence like this. Finish the sentence, team. I trust my boss to. And then there was a blank space. And one brave person opened it like this when we repeated it. I trust my boss to wear pants to work. And yes, maybe it's amusing, and for the group, it was very entertaining. But the point is, finding one little piece will help develop neurons that can now trust again. And when we consider our spectrum of trust, strength-based trust building is so essential for you and for me if we're going to find our way back to trusting. Strength-based trust building means on our spectrum of trust, we identify how much we trust certain people, certain institutions, certain systems, certain corporations, and certain non-government agencies. When we can decide, I trust so and so, such and such, this and that, this much, then I'm way more likely to build trust neurons that can improve my sense of certainty and bring me back to the place where trust can develop. Strength-based trust building softens our force of uncertainty. Even small trust reduces the chemistry related to stress and fear. Do you know how long it takes to get a cat to trust you? One little micro trust at a time, so that we can build the neurological capacity to actually trust again. Folks, we have come to step 4. We're right at the end of our time together. So trust each other to wear pants. This creates moments of us. And really, it's not literally trust each other to wear pants. I know you all are wearing them. But the truth is, let's imagine the 4 steps to soften the force of uncertainty. Starts with face it, feel it, step forward. Okay. The next one is to move from autonomy to agency. The next one is to communicate like a chemist and consider psychological safety, and then trust each other for small things. This will minimize uncertainty. We will all entirely have a small growth pattern to improve self and others around us. And when we improve humans, we improve everything. I'm Jim Brayshaw, and thank you for your time. I will pass back to our team leaders, Amanda and Trevor, and I will just be right here for any questions at all. Cassidy might have some in queue.
Well, no questions in queue. If you do have anything you'd like to ask of Jim, or anything in general, yeah, you can either throw it in the chat or in the Q&A. We have one. Do you have a reading list or bibliography from Norman?
I do. I think I can access the reading list. Bibliography not as specific as maybe some of the reading that I've done. Thank you, Janet, for the comment. If you want to send me questions too, you can see up here is my email address, and I know Amanda and Trevor have it as well. And the top one is just jimbrayshaw.com would go to my website, which would get you to get a hold of me as well. My email address is on there. Thank you all for your kind thanks as you're ready to tap out of the time together. Thanks, Dragon. Trevor, you go ahead and wrap up, or Amanda, whatever your preference is, because I think people are going to start to self-dismiss here too. And if a question decides to come in, Castle, just interrupt us as we're doing that.
And we have one request. Can we get a copy of the presentation?
Yeah, I will send Amanda a view link for this presentation, and you're welcome to click through it. It'll just need your email address, I believe, to sign in.
Jim, can you hear me?
I can, yes. Hi there, Trevor.
I just want to say thank you very much. It was an extremely insightful and engaging presentation, and gave us lots to think about and lots of skills that we can practice to enable us to improve on our own individual journeys as we deal with uncertainty, which we all are in different phases of that. I want to remind our audience to respond to the email you'll get with a questionnaire about what you felt you liked about today's presentation and any future topics you would like to see APEGA bring to you for professional development. And I also want to extend my thanks and appreciation for Amanda, part of the staff team within APEGA, for all the hard work she does behind the scenes to make all of the professional development sessions possible and well organized and coordinated. But thank you, Jim, again, and thank you also to Cass for supporting us in this endeavor today. Much appreciated.
Absolutely. We do have a question here in chat. So yeah, if one is not in the position of asking for some of these steps, what are ways to bring to light those with the power to begin the engagement?
Great, and I don't want to read too much into that question, but it sounds like if my people I report to, my leadership, is not yet using these, and I don't have. Let's imagine I'm just a 1-year employee like I was in the fire department, and there was behaviors going on regularly that were very disruptive, like pranking a new recruit, hosing you down in your underwear in the middle of the night with a fake alarm was triggered, for instance. So I was in not a position to go ask for that to change. So what is one way? Well, the only way I ever found for that answer is to recognize the person in my work environment who has some senior influence, and they also have some sense of emotional intelligence, and in hard difficult in your world, perhaps different than mine, but to connect with that person and asking, not saying this needs to change, but asking, hey, how do you feel about this? I'm curious if this is the typical organizational culture here, whatever the behavior is, because we can't change them all at once. So if I were to ask somebody, for an example, let's say Cass was my senior firefighter and he is emotionally intelligent. I'd say, hey Cass, hey, how did you feel about getting hosed down in the middle of the night when that happened for you? I'm not saying change something, but I'm exploring and adding a bit of a thought experiment to the conversation. And it's a tiny little nudge that starts. And if Cass is at all empathetic or didn't really enjoy it, but it's a rite of passage, then the next step would be, this is my last piece, is to say, well, do you mind if I tell you how I'm feeling about it? Asking that person. And sadly, our workplaces generally aren't clearly safe enough to have zero repercussions from seasoned people. So we have to be trepidatious when we have no power, essentially no power. I hope that helps. If you want to get in touch and we can dialogue further, I'd happily spitball some other options for you.
Well, I think with that question and that answer, I'll probably ask that we can bring today's session to close. And thank you again, Jim. From all the comments and all the thumbs up and positive impacts that you've made on the audience, I would say today's presentation was well received. And again, please fill out the questionnaire. We always appreciate your feedback from the audience and any future topics you'd like to see. But thanks again, Jim.
Thanks very much, everyone, and Trevor. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.